What is going on? I'm the Ink Otaku, and this is the 10th arc of Bleach, Downfall, Aizen's Downfall. And unfortunately, the reason why, if you're like, oh, why is this video so long, is because I didn't realize that on top of Hulu getting rid of Bleach from their subscription, Crunchyroll had also gotten rid of their videos from streaming as well. So I have to use the manga instead, which is fine. But so we'll get straight into it because it's going to be a lot longer than a normal video. But we start off with Ichigo fighting Ukiura in Las Noches still, after Ukiura's come back from that dimension. Ichigo's able to keep up with Ukiura's movements. You know, he's gotten a lot stronger since he's been in Las Noches. And then he's able to cut the Hiedo on Ukiura. And you can see here, after Ichigo tells Ukiura, he's like, maybe I'm able to keep up with you because you've actually gotten a little more human. And that pisses Ukiura off. And so, as he goes to attack, Orihime defends him, his initial attack. But she is grabbed by Aizen's two minion girls, and they're basically like, you know, Aizen's gone. He says he has no more use for you. We're just gonna kill you now. And so Ichigo tries to go, you know, save Orihime, but Ukiura's not letting that happen. He's like, you wanna get her, you're gonna have to kill me, which, you know, he can't right now. Then Yami shows up. Yami shows up and basically he kills both of these girls, no problem. He backhand this one's into a wall. She dies. I assume she dies anyway. And then the other girl releases her Resurrection form, and Yami just crushes her and throws her out the window. And then this is where Uryu shows up to fight Yami. And in the manga, it's a lot shorter fight in the manga. Like in the anime, you know, they fight for, you know, like 5-7 minutes maybe. And Uryu uses that pentagram Zell Schneider combo to, you know, injure Yami at first. But in this one, he shoots him. They fight for like a little bit, and then he just shoots Yami down to the bottom basement floor like he did, and then that's really it. Then Ichigo holofies. Meanwhile, you know, with Ichigo, he holofies, getting on to Ukiura, and they break through Las Noches' dome on the top, and they make their way into you know, Hueco Mundo's top area, or in Hueco Mundo. And here you can see, yeah, so like I clipped each one as it reads in the manga. So if they're like, oh, go back and forth, you know, try not to, but it goes back and forth, back and forth. Rukia is fighting Rubaron, and, you know, his ability is he can, all those skulls on him, he can create an infinite supply of soldiers that will listen to him. And then once they reach the top, see back with Ukiura, once they reach the top, he goes into his release form. And Ichigo still holofied, gets a good Tensho, but it doesn't work on Ukiura. He's able to break his mask. You know, and the fight's not going that well for him. He's just getting pummeled by Ukiura. As you can see here, he tries to use another Getsuga Tensho, but Ukiura's able to just, you know, flatten him with each attack. And so here, this is where Ukiura's like, I'm going to show you something that nobody else knows about, and he releases his second form on top of that, which I'm kind of disappointed that they weren't like, oh, the other three top Arrancar can have a second release form, because like he's like, Aizen doesn't know about this, nobody else can do it, you know. And this is where Uryu and Orihime are making their way up to where Ichigo and Ukiura is. And so oh yeah, like I said, he's like, this is the second level release and nobody knows about it. He goes to attack Ichigo, and like, he was already beating the shit out of him. He just continues to beat the shit out of him until Orihime and Uryu arrive to see Ichigo just completely beaten, and then he literally just makes another hole, an even bigger hole, in Ichigo's chest, killing him-ish, if you want to say. Then Uryu comes to fight Ukiura to take over while Orihime tries to heal Ichigo, but it's unsuccessful. I don't remember, like, I have it in here, like, he loses his hand here. I don't remember if it's just, like, injured in the anime, but here, you know, he loses his hand. And this is when, after Orihime's like, help us, Ichigo has his new hollow form to take on Ukiura, and he just, you know, uses the force, grabs his Bankai, and then takes it to Ukiura. Seto blasts past Ukiura, doesn't do anything, and he completely rips off Ukiura's arm. And this is when Ukiura uses, like, his... He says he doesn't use this very often, but it's like a lightning spear that he throws, misses Ichigo, and then has this mass explosion on the outside of Las Noches. And he tries to use it again, but unsuccessfully. Ichigo is able to grab it with his bare hands, and it blows up, you know, backfiring on Ukiura, and now Ichigo uses a Seto to, to try and kill Ukiura now. Back with Yami. After Yami's done falling through the tower, he comes, I think he kills Ruberon. I would assume, you don't see Ruberon after that, and now it's Yami versus Chad, Rukia, and Renji now. They start to fight. But back with Ichigo and Ukiura, like, now it's half of Ukiura's body, which I don't understand. If he gets point blank shot in the face, I don't get why the bottom half of his body's gone. But so that happens. He throws him, and he goes to stab him to kill him, to finish him off. And Uryu's like, nah. He's like, stop. You don't need to kill him. But Ichigo stabs him, and then the hollow mass breaks on him. He falls to the ground, and then I guess you can say, like, all the hollow stuff, like his hollowification, sucks back in and closes the hole in his body. And so he gets up, and he's like, I don't know what happened. He was like, what, the hole in my chest? And he sees that Uryu's been stabbed. And he's like, oh, did I do that? Or, what happened? And then Ukiura, like an asshole, has to come in and just take the sword out of his body, out of Uryu's body. The injured guy, he's just throws it to Ichigo, and they start, he's like, let's fight again. Ichigo's like, I'll chop off my arm and my leg, to make it equal and all that. But in the end, Ukiura's already, he's already dead, essentially. And that's the end of the fight. Which, to be honest, little side tangent, I don't, you can see in the back, I collect pops and other things. I used to have the entire Bleach run, and I never understood why they never made Ukiura, but they made Grimmjow. Like, I understand Grimmjow versus Ichigo was like a big thing, but I think Ichigo versus Ukiura was an even bigger thing, I guess you can say. So I never understood why they didn't make Ukiura. I think that would have made an even more badass pop. But down in Las Noches now, you can see Yami's released in his release form, and his thing goes from a 10 to a 0, and he's saying that the Espadas actually go from 0 to 9, not 1 to 10, and is the only one that can change his number, which, makes sense. But outside, in Karakura Town now, we have Toshiro versus Haribel, Shunsui versus Stark, and Suifong versus Baragon. And these are pretty quick-ish fights, you can say. This is where Baragon explains to Suifong that each Espada has a aspect of death that they're known for, and you can see here: isolation, sacrifice, emptiness, despair, destruction, intoxication, rage, greed, and madness. And then his is old age, time, everything eventually withers away and dies. And so he touches Suifong's shoulder, and after she hops away, it immediately breaks. So after that, he releases his his resurrectional form, which, he's the king of Las Noches, or not Las Noches, he's the king of Hueco Mundo. So that's his release form. And you can see here, everything that he touches eventually disintegrates and, ages with time. But, like, it's different in the anime, because it's like, if you look at that, it's a complete circle. It's like a perfect circle. Instead of it, like, aging, like, if something was to age. It's so not really, like, a difference. It's just, I guess, different animation thing. But, yeah, so, like, it ages different. And then, so, her arm, you can see here, her arm starts to disintegrate and age away, and she has her lieutenant chop her arm off. Which I don't understand, if he touched her on the shoulder, wouldn't it start here? Why would it start at the base of her hand? Like, why would it start at her hand? But anyway, so I didn't put a bunch of them in because it's just a bunch of back and forth that, it's not boring fight, but it's not very, so Toshiro, releases his Bankai, and she releases Haribel releases her release form, and they go back in like water and ice, back and forth, and eventually Toshiro is able to freeze Haribel in a pillar, if you will, of ice, if you will. He's able to freeze her solid for now. And then we go back to Suifong fighting Baragon with her lieutenant. She tells her lieutenant, like, hey, be a decoy while I set up stuff to release my Bankai, for her plan. And so she, you can see here, she wrapped herself. And it's steel, but it doesn't look, you can't really tell what that is, but it's steel banding that she wrapped around an entire building, and she releases her Bankai. Then we go to Jushiro fucking around with Lilionette. He took her sword, and he's just fucking around with her, not letting her get it back because he doesn't really want to fight. And then we go back to Suifong, which I know I said another thing, like, there's not really a Bankai I don't like, which I really don't not like this one, but I don't think it's a good one for her. And she, she also says, she's like, this is a shitty weapon for an assassin. You go from one thing that'll, you stab somebody 2 times in the same spot and they die, to basically like a giant rocket launcher arm with a nuke on it. It's not a very good assassin tool. So if it was something else, I wish she had a different Bankai, because I think that'd be, better assassination Bankai. But, she shoots it at Baragon, and, he's now, I wouldn't even say stuck, but he's just in this giant raging fire for now. And now we can get to Stark versus Shunsui again. And so he wants to see, after seeing both of their Bankais, he starts like, I want to see your Bankai, if it's that strong. So he's like, I guess I'm gonna have to go all out. So he calls Lilionette over, and I didn't clip the thing. I didn't clip there, but the backstory, on Stark is he was lonely, and then he manifested Lilionette so he wouldn't be lonely, and so they're two of the same, they're two in the same body, essentially. And I think he's probably my favorite, Espada with my favorite outfit once they release, like, Red Dead Redemption Western style. And his name is also Cody, or not Cody, Coyote. So, like Western, whatever. But, she's in the guns, and, it shoots off Setos. And this is when Jushiro steps in, and he's like, if you're fighting, it's 2 of you versus him, so I'm going to step in, it's going to be 2 of us, me and him versus you 2. And he repels the Setos back at Stark, telling Shunsui that he shouldn't release his Bankai here, which I don't... Like, you haven't seen it at all in here in the anime, but I don't remember reading past and trying to remember what Shunsui's Bankai is, but that's what I'm waiting on when the new season comes out. Just then, while they're about to go back to fight, a portal to Hueco Mundo opens up, and Wonderwise comes with this giant monster, which I can't remember the name of, which they never really named it, but I can't remember the name of it. And you see here that they were like, oh, that's the same eye from when Aizen left the Soul Society, when he abandoned the Soul Society. And then Wonder Wise comes and stabs Jushiro, and Shunsui tries to kill him for attacking Jushiro, but then Stark's like, nah, bruh. He was like, that means if Wonder Wise is here, Aizen's about to start his plan for real. And so Wonder Wise begins to yell, breaking the ice that encases Haribel, blowing away the smoke and the fire that Baragon's in, and then that giant monster blows away the fire from Ryujin Jaka that's been holding Aizen and the other two captains. So, and then the Visored finally show up. You know, they were like, oh, we've been looking for this place, we couldn't find it. I guess the number one captain or Old Man Yama's lieutenant helped them get into the thing, because they were like, we've been going around for hours trying to find the inside of this place. And see here, Lisa comes to talk to Shunsui, and she's like, I'm going to show you what's happened over the last 100 years. And so then that giant monster starts to spit out Menos Grandes, but the Visoreds easily destroy all of them, no problem. While Shinji goes and attacks Aizen, he was like, me and you are gonna fight while everybody else is taking care of everything. But Tozen comes, attacks Shinji, almost cutting him. He goes to attack again and is stopped by Sajin. You know, those two are gonna start to fight. And then you can see Toshiro is helped by Lisa, and Hiyori fight Haribel now. They're gonna help him fight her. Hachi is going to help Soifong, and she pretends like she doesn't know who Hachi is, you know, just because she just pretends like she doesn't know who he is while she fights Baragon. He uses some Kido. He's like, you don't think Kido ages, which would make sense. I mean, everything ages. He tries to lock him in a Kido, and then he locks him in like this intricate, like 4, 5, 6 different Kidos to put him in to use, so Soifong can use her Bankai again, which with the expectation that if she helps him, she's gonna lock Urahara. He's gonna lock Urahara in his strongest Kido for a month straight, because she doesn't like Urahara, and so he, it doesn't kill him, but it injures him. I wouldn't say greatly, but it injures him. And so Hachi ends up being touched by Baragon, and Hachi ends up using his own arm to put it inside Baragon's body to eventually make him disintegrate. And then it goes into Baragon's backstory of how he, was the king of king of Hueco Mundo. Aizen came in, used his Shikai to, make him under his control, and he was like, eventually I'm gonna kill you, Aizen, for doing this. And so, the last attack he tried to throw his axe at Aizen, but eventually it just disintegrates and Baragon's gone. And so now back with Stark's fight, they swap places, so now all those wolves are Stark, and Lillianette is inside, I guess inside Stark's body, that his humanoid body, and Stark is all the wolves. And there he's fighting. I guess when Shinji went to go take care of Jushiro, so the other two Visoreds come to fight Stark. But then once it casts a shadow on Stark, this is when Shunsui comes back. And he was like, my Shikai is very moody and likes to play games. And so depending on what game she wants to play is depending on what kind of powers that I get at the moment. So he, there's I don't know what the name of the game that he was playing now, but it's, the color he said to the cut, and he does a very shallow cut, and Stark figures it out immediately that, the more color of the same thing that you have on, the deeper the cut will be, and he says white, cutting Shinji, and then the last attack is, you know, he said black, and he kills Stark. He kills Stark in the end, which is kind of disappointing. And then lastly, so that's 2 down. Now Aizen goes to Hardbell, and he just he's like, I have no more use for you. He kills. Well, he doesn't kill her, but he you know, cuts her. She tries to stab him, which I don't remember if she tries to attack him or not. I think the initial attack in the anime, Aizen attacks her and she tried to just falls away. But I think, you know, I see here she attacks, and he just was like, he was like, and then he was like, oh, you made me mad. I had to use my sword twice. So, you know. Then Hiyori goes to attack Aizen. Mistake. She gets stabbed by Gin. Gin stabs her, injuring her. And then back in Lost Note, you know, now Shinji goes to try to help her. And then, you know, save her. And he's like, well, we're just going to wait for Ichigo to bring Orihime here. And then, you know, so now we're back in Hueco Mundo. They're not having an easy time fighting Yami. And then Ichigo shows up to help. He starts to fight Yami, and then Byakuya and Kenpachi come, and they fight Yami. They take over fighting Yami, while Mayuri comes. He opens up a gate to let Ichigo go to Katakura Town, and Retsu, you know, Captain of the Fourth, is like, I'll come with you. You know, so they start to go, and I just put this in because it's funny to see that just like Ichigo's like his reishi is just, it's not shitty, but he's just like, he doesn't have any control, and he's just like, it's falling apart. And you can see at the bottom that Retsu's like, I'm gonna have to like, she has to like jump over because his shit just constantly breaks, and she's like, I'm gonna take over, and her shit's just like a nice straight path to, you know, if she has better reishi control, she's just like, oh, that's, you know, just a straight path instead. But they end up switching back to heal Ichigo on his way. And you see here, eventually Kenpachi and Byakuya are just like in their own little fight, and Yami's just like in the way now, and so while they're fighting, so they just beat the shit out of him, and then they go back to their fighting. All right. Back in Katakura Town, Tozen has holified, if you want to say. He's gone through the process of holification, so he has a mask now. And Tozen is fighting Sajin with the help of Hisagi. He takes out Hisagi, and then Sajin goes to attack. You see here, after a while, Hisagi's like, why are you doing this? And Tozen's just like beats the shit out of him. He then transforms, I guess, into his like he went through the process of holification. I'm not becoming like an Espada, but I guess and then he transforms into his release form, I guess. I never fully understood like what happened there. And then kind of shitty, he was like, oh, I can see now. You know, he's like, he told Sajin, he was like, you're fucking ugly, bro. And I was like, damn, that's fucked up. But see here, as they're fighting, Sajin was no match for Tozen in this new form that he had. And so as he's about to end it, you know, the lieutenant comes, and he essentially, like, he doesn't kill him, but, you know, they're able to win now. Now it's, you know, they beat Tozen. But then Aizen is just like, whoop, and he kills Tozen. And then this is when Ichigo finally comes in from Hueco Mundo, and we're gonna get to the last-ish parts of these fights. Now, once Ichigo's here, all the rest of the people that aren't, you know, injured or, you know, injured and everything else come to, which not that many people, I guess, are like out of the fight. I mean, there's a lot of people out of the fight, but not really. You know, they all come to help Ichigo fight Aizen, you know, but he completely bodies every single one he bodies damn near everyone that goes to attack him, no problem. But, you know, Toshiro is able to stab what he thinks is Aizen. And then Ichigo is like, and everyone, you know, I guess is already under his control, under Aizen's control. And he's like, what the fuck are y'all doing? Turns out he actually stabbed Momo, and, you know, then everyone goes crazy, and they go to attack, you know, the real Aizen, and they end up just getting, like, the rest of them just end up getting bodied by Aizen, no problem. And then the last one is Old Man Yama, which has been setting up flames around the city to blow him up or to use his Shikai. He lets Aizen stab him, you know, so he can get closer, so he can use these giant inferno pillars that'll destroy everything. And then this is when Wonder Wise in his release form comes and basically seals Ryujin Jaka from him, and that's when Aizen explains, is like, the only reason why he was created was to seal your sword away. And then Old Man Yama's like, you think that I need a sword? I was like, most badass. He's like, if I had to, probably most badass old man and one of the most badass old men in anime. He's like, you think I need a sword to fight you? He's like, boy, I've been the captain for over 1,000 years. And so he's about to beat the shit. He beats the shit out of Wonder Wise, punches him in the stomach, destroys his side, and then Wonder Wise has all these arms, starts to release a flurry on him, and eventually Old Man Yama's like, I didn't feel shit, rips off those two of his arms that were holding him, and then punches him into oblivion, beats him. But that's when Aizen explains, after Old Man Yama's about to go after Aizen, he's like, what do you think happened to all those flames? Like, where'd they all go? In the background you can see Wonder Wise's, what's left of his body. What's left of his body explodes right there, injuring Old Man Yama. And right as Aizen's about to stab him, as he's about to kill him, he uses Aikido by sacrificing his arm to, I guess, distract him for a second while Ichigo comes to attack Aizen, injuring him a smidge, I guess, you know, not really injuring him. But then this is where you see that Aizen has fused with the Hokyoku, or fused, merged, you know, one of the two. He's fused with it now. And he said, everything, like all the things that you've done, everything that's happened so far, all the battles you've been through, is like, it's been a part of my plan. Like everything you've done has been a part of my plan. And then this is when Ishin shows up to take on Aizen with Urahara and Yoriichi. But I was just like, he's like, I want to know, like, I hope that in the new season Ishin's in, because I need to know how much more powerful Ishin is, just for the, so he's just like, but he was like, don't flick, like, he didn't even use, he was just like, flicked him out the way. And so while Ishin's fighting Aizen, Ichigo is going to fight Gin, and this is where Gin releases his Bankai. They fight, you know, they're fighting for a little bit, and then this is where where Aizen tries to explain to Ishin, like, what the real power of the Hokyoku is. It's like, it'll manifest anything that anybody wants. So like things that people want, it'll manifest it, because it'll read the people's minds. That's the true power of it. And that's when Urahara shows up with Yoriichi, uses a bunch of Kido on him to try and hold him. You know, I think Urahara knows that it's not going to hold him, but he's just trying to distract him for a little bit. And then after all that, this is when Aizen takes on a new form, which kind of just reminds me of like an end-level game boss, where it's like, you beat this form, then he goes into this form, and then he goes into this form. So I was like, as I was rewatching, I was like, he's just like an end-level game boss of a video game. And he's just like, this form, and now he's in this form. That's when Yoriichi shows up to fight, but it's not, they're not doing anything. And meanwhile, Gin's like, we'll just chillax for a minute and watch the fight, because I don't think, you know, you're not going to beat me. And then Gin tells him, he's like, I don't think that you know, have the will to fight anymore. Like, you've given up on the fight. So he's like, you're a disappointment. Tells him to leave, you know. And then then here, I just put this in because they're fighting, and then Ishin uses a Getsuga Tensho on him, which I want to know more about, like, how the process of Bankai Shikai in terms of like children to parent trickle down in that sense. Only reason because of what you find out in the new season, but that's, you know, I assume we'll find that out later. But he uses a Getsuga Tensho on Aizen, doesn't really do anything to him. They find that he's got the shit beat out of him. All three of them got the shit beat out of him. And then with Gin, he was gonna kill Ichigo, and then Aizen shows him, was like, "What were you gonna do?" And then those two end up leaving, going to the real Katakuta town. You know, and he's like, "I'm just gonna leave you here. It's not even worth killing you." So Ishin gets up and is like, "Let's go. You know, we're gonna go open a Seikaimon, you know, and let's go." Once Aizen and Gin are in there, they destroy that train, that cleaning train. You know, he destroys the cleaning train, and then once they're in there, once Ichigo and Ishin are in there, he's like, I'm gonna have you learn the final Getsuga Tensho while they're in there. So he starts to meditate, and he's like, Zangetsu's not gonna want to tell you what this is. And he goes in to his inner mind, and you can see it's like it turns from a vast city that was, I think it was underwater the last time, but it turns from a vast city to like a small town. And this is that's Getsuga, that's Tensai Zangetsu, since he's never been here in his Bankai form. He's never went into his inner mind. And you can see here, that's where Ishin's like, his Engetsu doesn't want to teach him the move, and he'll find out why. And, you know, Zangetsu tells him, he's like, I don't want to teach you it, because the thing that you want to protect and the thing that I want to protect are two completely different things, so I'm not going to teach it to you. And so we get back in Katakuta town. Sorry for the back and forth. My OCD kind of irritates me, jumping back and forth. But so in Katakuta town, Aizen, you know, after every person he walks past, I guess because his spiritual pressure's so heavy or great, you want to say, he literally just kills everybody that he walks past. But in the anime, it kind of knocks him, or it made that guy disappear. You know, it didn't kill him, it made him disappear instead. But in here, it just shows it literally kills everybody. And so this is where, you know, this is where Zangetsu's like, this world fell into despair. You know, this used to be a city with like I said, it was a city with skyscrapers, and now it's just a small town. So you lost your will to fight, you fell into despair, and now, you know, Zangetsu pulls out the new hollow form that Ichigo has gotten. He's like, you've never seen this before. And he's like, that's what you used to beat Ukiura. And then they fuse into one. You know, Ichigo's still not realizing it's like that. Ichigo's still not realizing that they are two, you know, they're one and the same. Like, his hollow powers and Zangetsu have always been one and the same. Now you see Rangiku has also followed Gin and Aizen. And this is when Gin's like, I'm gonna take her, I'll kill her, you know, I'll get her out your way. And so you see here, he's like, you're in the way, and he's about to stab her. And then Gin comes back. He's like, you know, I'm back. He's like, I killed her. Aizen's like, oh, I don't feel Horashi anymore. And then this is when Aizen's run into like Ichigo's friends, like Tatsuki and all them. And he's like, I'm gonna go kill them. And he's like, no, Gin's like, no, let me kill them. And he touches Aizen's sword. And then he stabs him. You know, Gin stabs him with his sword, saying that he's waited years to be able to just touch his sword because he's been under Aizen's control for, you know, since he was a child, basically. And, you know, that the sword he just stabbed him with has a piece missing, has a little bit of poison in it, and that he lied about his Bankai's ability. It's not that it extends as fast as it does. It just, I think he said, like, it turns into dust. It's kind of like Rangiku's, if you think like with the exception of like it doesn't look like it, but it turns into dust and then forms just as quick, and then turns back into dust and then forms back to a short sword. But there's a deadly poison in it that'll dissolve and break down cells and everything. So he starts to he literally just was like bam, he activates the poison, destroying, Aizen's chest cavity, grabs the Hokyoku, but grabs the Hokyoku, he runs, and then Aizen goes into like this rage, but it turns out that like the Hokyoku will just manifest Aizen back to wherever the Hokyoku is, and he rips off Gin's arm and he kills him. And then, that's the end, and Rangiku obviously upset. He didn't kill her, but he's obviously upset. And I'm kind of disappointed. I wish they'd go into more of more of their backstory in terms of, like, you see that as a kid, he sees Aizen take what I assume is, like, his another Hokyoku that he made using Rangiku, like, part of Rangiku. And he was like, I'm gonna get that back for you. And then, but they never explain like what it is. I don't, so I wish they would have went into more backstory about that. Kind of slipped on their end. What I wish they could do, or what he could do, the author could do, like, how they did Itachi's story and like Kakashi's story, like for Naruto. They could do something like that, which I think would be pretty cool. But then after killing Gin, Ichigo, badass Ichigo, shows up in his new form again. I think he has the best, like, I want to say he has the best form. Like, once he gets to a new level, I'd say he has the best outfits, the best forms out of any, especially the big three, I would say. He has the best. And then, I only put this in here because I don't think in the anime, but he grows a beard. They've been in there so long that Ishin grows a beard, which I think is funny. Keep the beard. Looks cool with the beard. And then Aizen's like, I don't feel any reishi from you. I don't feel any spiritual pressure. It's like once you get to a certain level, like you can't feel their spiritual pressure and feel their reishi. And he's like, I don't feel anything from you. And so, he's like, I'm disappointed. I thought you'd be stronger by now. He's like, I don't feel shit from you. And so Ichigo's like, let's take this shit somewhere else. And he just basically manhandles Aizen over to this mountain somewhere else. He's like, I'm gonna beat you. He's like, I'm gonna kill you. This is it. I'm gonna beat you in a blink of an eye. I'm gonna finish this. They start to clash, destroying an entire mountain in one hit. And Aizen tries to use Kido. Doesn't work. Ichigo breaks it without even breaking a sweat. And Aizen transforms. Again, like I say, he's like a video game boss. He transforms into another form, gets a hold of Ichigo, but doesn't do anything. And this is where Ichigo releases the final Getsuga Tensho. And this is where you can see it goes back into the thing. He's like, he lets Zangetsu stab him. And he's like, I don't, it doesn't hurt. He's like, of course it wouldn't hurt. I'm your sword. Me stabbing you isn't gonna hurt you. And then he goes into the, gives him a process like I said, the thing that I want to protect is not what you want to protect, and what I want to protect is you, because if you use this, you're gonna lose all your powers. So, such badass. And then this is this is him, he's becoming Getsuga itself, badass form. And it's like, also, if you ever played, there's a game that's Shonen released called J-Stars, and it stays true. Like if you use Final Getsuga Tensho, you end up, so it's like a 2-on-2, and then when you die, you lose. When you use it, you basically die, and so that counts as a kill, which I think is which I didn't like, but at the same time I think is cool. But so that just made me think of that they got it actual in that game, but made me think of Getsuga, and then he uses the Final Getsuga. And that's it. Aizen is done. He beats Aizen. As you can see, all the powers start to break away, and he's about to start losing his powers. But Aizen is able to still regenerate. And then this is when Uryu shows up. God damn it! All these names. Urahara shows up And this is when you find out there was a little piece of keto that he put in there that Aizen didn't nullify, and then it seals him. It seals him, and it's over. And you can see in Las Noches they beat Yami. Yami's done. And now everybody runs into, after this is after the battle, they run into Ichigo. They run into Ichigo and everybody sees him. And then he collapses. I don't think they know yet that he's lost his powers yet, but he collapses. And then this is in Central 46. Yeah, 46? Yeah. Central 46, where they send Aizen to 1800 years and then jump it up to 20,000 years after Aizen says some dumb shit. But, this is just him being locked up. And then they're like, oh, cover his mouth and his other eye. So they're just like cover his whole body now in what I assume is some type of keto or restrictive thing. Then, I don't know how much time has passed, but Ichigo finally wakes up and he's like, he's like, then they know, he's like, your powers are gonna eventually dissipate and eventually you won't be a Soul Reaper anymore. And so they go outside. Well, this actually, it cuts it, like, this is the end of the season, and then it goes into, like, filler for a whole season. Well, it's, like, filler for half, and then they have, like, one episode, which is this, where, like, the first half of the filler is him still using his powers and doing stuff, and then it goes into this, which is the episode where Rukia, he can still see Rukia, and then this is, like, right as he's about to lose his powers, finally, and then you can see here he's telling Rukia goodbye, and then she finally disappears, and that's it for, that's it. He's lost his powers now, and that is it for the downfall. And next will be the Lost Substitute, which is the final arc before the new season comes, and I am super excited. Reading and watching all these, it gets me super, super excited for it, and I will see you for the next one. Otaku out.